Most units in Arknights fall into one of 4 categories: being meta, being useful, being niche, and being useless, in the biggest quotations possible. Every operator in Arknights comes with a toolkit that tries to give players advantages in some fashion, whether it's doing more damage, doing special effects like stun, freeze, cold, bind, sleep, buff, or debuff. Others heal more or do special effects when healing. There are times, however, when it feels like not every operator was made equally. Some operators, most notably the 6 stars, can be hit or miss because they are desired for one skill or one combo they exploit. Surtur, for instance, is most notable for her S3 because of her ability to delay her death for 8 seconds after dying, do massive damage, large HP pool, and multi-target. Meanwhile, other operators like the 5-star Mecha caster Minimalist, where his S2 means he hits twice, deals extra damage, and holds charges. Similar to AFPL S2. Operators like Minimalist aren't necessarily bad, but their lack of any interesting or unique utility relegates him to, at best, Niche Knights playthroughs. A lot of operators can excel in Niche Knights to fill in spots missing operators could provide. For example, in Kazimira's Knights, they do not provide a dedicated medic operator, but operators Blemishine and Defender Neural can still provide healing through their skills and make up for the lack of proper healing. Laterano Knights have no form of healing, so in situations you need an operator to sustain themselves, Executor the Exfodere can have you covered since he is of the Reaper Guard branch and can technically heal as a form of self-healing. From my experience in Waifus Only, my 3 medic operators, Myrrh, Mulberry, and Breeze, all have contemporaries in their respective branches that typically provide more HPS and have extra utilities, or their skills grant them more general usage. Breeze especially, the subject of this video, is often ranked as a middling operator with too much resource cost to effectively build her. And, to address the elephant in the room, 19 to 21 red certs per run of AP5 requires you to do 30 runs, meaning 600 sanity is spent on one copy of Breeze, or her 5-star red cert contemporaries, Honeyberry and Quantaplat. While obvious to many doctors, it should be discussed some fundamental problems that still haven't been properly addressed by the developers of Arknights. And today, I want to take a look at what makes Breeze such a forgettable operator. Torrens, tragic, tortured, trivial, tormented, tender, Victorian princess. What makes Breeze so forgettable? The most obvious problem with Breeze is red certs. Breeze, like her red cert friends, 4 stars Ethan, Pudding, Quartz, and 5 stars Honeyberry and Quantaplat, is a permanent unit that can be purchased in the red certificate shop for 600 red certs per copy, a total of 3,600 certificates for max potential. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand that 150 red certs for only the 4 star is a tall order, 600 for max pot, and the 5 stars have it 6 times as bad. If there was ever a place cost effectiveness and resource management are paramount, it's for early to mid-game players who not only have to decide between 6 operators, half of which don't compare to their branch contemporaries, or in Quartz's case, have no sustainability that doesn't warrant the usage of other operators, but you have to buy chip catalysts for 5 and 6 stars at 90 apiece, already 5 runs of AP5, if you're not passively grinding red certs via daily and weekly quests. At even just 600 red certs, Breeze is a mighty investment. But surely her kit is useful, right? Well, at E2, Breeze has access to the talent Medic Squad Protection, granting all medics and supporters status resistance while the skill is active. Her first skill, Cluster Therapy, grants Breeze 100% attack, super good for an AoE medic, at the trade-off of healing one less target. Her second skill, Widespread Therapy, gives Breeze an additional 190% attack, but her shot becomes a healing orb that, when targeting an ally, heals them and all the ops around them for half of the healing. So you have one operator in the middle getting healed for 190% and the rest at about half at around 95%. So what do we have in terms of pros for Breeze? Great healing with both skills, both serving different purposes if you need to more consistently heal operators in a stage, and another skill that gives her great burst healing in a pinch at the midway point or at the end of a stage. She is free, so if you're having bad luck pulling other AoE medics like Perfumer, Tolopsis, or Nightingale, you can pull Breeze, and even at E1 out the box, she provides great healing burst. A neutral point to discuss is Breeze's lack of direct talent skill synergy, which can oftentimes be crucial for most operators. While not essential, for example, ops like Jay, Blaze, and Elysium don't necessarily have talent skill synergy, Well, maybe Elysium sorta does with snipers, but you know. Breeze's talent is meant to be extended to not just her, but all medics and even supporters. The biggest drawback is this resistance is only active on skill activation, best utilized with S1 if any synergy could be present. Now, what are Breeze's cons? She's very costly for a 5-star that puts her down a peg compared to Perfumer, who is a 4-star and super easy to access. Breeze's S2, while very unique and has high HPS if you have all units in a clump, its skill cooldown time is 80 seconds, and even on deploy at skill level 7, you're waiting 32 seconds to use it. Good for a pinch, but if you need a more sustained, stronger healing, there are better options. A lack of talent skill synergy means her talent can be seldom used in its best cases, great for Chapter 6's freeze mechanics, Tallulah's burning breath ability in Chapter 8, and a few other niche cases, like Ling's event with the blue flower and Scarlet Mist enemies, but otherwise useless. So, does Breeze's module fix any problems in her kit? Not necessarily. Breeze gets a tile extension like Talops the Nightingale. This doesn't fix any previous problems, but it does at least give her one more tile of range that stretches outward, perfect for hard to reach allies that couldn't be done prior to, such as H10-4 or 9-19. The effective extended range keeps her safe from a slightly further distance, and melee units can be closer to combat if need be. Her module upgrades benefit her talent. On skill activation, medics and supporters get plus 10% and plus 15% health for levels 2 and 3 respectively. A useful patch, but overall this doesn't nearly address any problems Breeze had prior. This doesn't give her a new niche that lets her greatly excel. This doesn't patch her long S2 cooldown. This doesn't even provide an additional boost to her already high HPS. It still makes you have to activate her skill for the resist and HP boost to even get turned to effect. I think she does get an additional pro with the increased range and additional HP for medics and supporters. I think it's great the talent isn't restricted to allies in her range, which would have probably killed all talent usage in general. Funny enough, Ceylon was the first medic introduced with status resistance abilities, being a therapist medic. It was exclusively tied to both her second skill and to operators in her range, which I might add also has an 80-second cooldown, yikes. But Breeze does not get any more pros as her lingering problems still exist. Costly 5-star despite being free, long S2 cooldown, and lack of any good talent skill synergy that provides Breeze with any meaningful niche or utility. The biggest problem Breeze has is being overshadowed by her AoE medic friends. Perfumer has a niche of passive healing, which extends to all allies on the map, including anemone operators. Talopsis has insane SP regen, which means she still gets frequent use in all forms of content. And Nightingale is an arts tank with her S3, not only being hella droppable, but it gives great healing. All allies in range get additional res and arts dodge. Breeze has status resistance, but only to herself and her fellow medics and supporters, and she needs to activate her skill. This lack of niche provides her big HPS. It isn't very impactful outside of niche cases like Surtur Hospital setups or Niche Knights. I use her in Waifus Only, but she has practical usage in both Victoria Knights and Volpal Knights, and E0 content creators do often use her. Even at E0, she can pop out 70 to 85% healing with S1, which is really good. Lastly, Breeze's biggest competition in the Red Cert game is Honeyberry. While not to compare apples and oranges, Honeyberry has a lot more utility as a wandering medic, access to elemental healing, wide range, and her S1 provides continuous regen. While this video is not about her, Mulberry is often overshadowed by Honeyberry. Not only is Honeyberry more relatively accessible, but her continuous elemental healing is much preferred in stages like Chapter 10 and H10-1 specifically, where Honeyberry can consistently keep an operator alive against Manfred's necrosis damage. Just about all players have Perfumer and may even have Talops the Nightingale, so there's no reason to pick Breeze, which I think is pretty funny that there is a inverse problem for Breeze in Mulberry. Mulberry's problem is that she is headhunt exclusive, and she's not available in recruitment, and while Honeyberry costs red certs, she is the relatively free option. While Breeze is also relatively free, Perfumer is much more accessible, and Talops the Nightingale can also be recruited in recruitment. Overall, I think Breeze's biggest crippling problem is that nobody wants her because they already have better options outside the gate. Breeze can't rely on cute looks to sustain her popularity when every single character is vying for attention, as attention means skins, more relevance, and possibly an altar. I would know how it feels to cope for a skin. Friends of mine can attest to the 248-day ongoing journey for Breeze skin copium. So, Breeze is outclassed, overshadowed by more accessible ops, and has weaker unique traits. I don't think this means Breeze should continue being neglected, but what she needed most was a niche of her own that could warrant usage over other AoE medics, or even just lowering her costs in the Red Search shop, among all other 5 stars. I think it really sucks that you only get 19 to 21 red certs per run of AP5, and not having an AP6 where you can get like maybe 30 or even like 60, it really kills most 5-star usages. Most people go for Ethan, maybe Honeyberry, and then maybe Pudding. Quantaplat, Breeze, and Quartz are all but neglected because of their lack of proper utility, unique niches, or any useful traits that can't be found in other operators. Quantaplat has a Levitate, but Irene does it better. I think what Breeze needed most was a talent upgrade. So, why not a talent upgrade where she grants operators hit by S2 a buff where they deal additional arts damage per hit for a few seconds? Or perhaps Breeze can give status resistance and the extra HP to all medics and supporters permanently when on the map. This would make her super useful in events like Undertide, Stofaria Navis, and Break the Ice. I understand we already have therapist modules that give status resistance, but I think if Breeze had it permanently, it'd be great for those who don't have it, or if you don't have the module in general. The additional HP would also help the team be permanently tankier so long as she's on the map. Perhaps give her a buff where the more she continuously heals an ally, she provides a stacking defense and res buff. This way it benefits her S1's -1 target count. You can get like a plus 20% defense and plus 5 res per heal, stacking up to 3 times or something. I think it's just unfair that she's relegated to being one of the world's most forgettable operators. It's not even her fault. She doesn't have a bad kit per se, just a slightly bland one. The HPS, or heal per second, is very good, and status resistance has saved me many times in Chapter 6, especially during Frostnova's fight, but the other AoE medics outshine her, and today's therapist medics, specifically Whisper Rain and Lumen, put Breeze's talent to shame. Back when her only status resistance competition was Ceylon, they both had a similar niche of sometimes status resistance, but nowadays she's been relegated as a forgotten, Torrens, tragic torture, trivial, tormented, tender Victorian princess, and I think she deserves so much better. That's all I have to say today. Thank you for listening, and stay breezy, I guess. But stay safe.